And it's time now to take a look at what's grabbing headlines around the world. And for that, I'm joined by Florence Villemino.
Hi, Molly.
Hey there. So we're going to start off by talking, of course, about this ongoing crisis between Russia, the West, over Ukraine.
That's right. It's Friday, so let's start out with a cartoon in the international New York Times. You can see President Obama relaxing on the beach there, cozying up to Asia under the U.S. foreign policy umbrella. And who has come up on the beach to kick sand in his face but a very muscular Vladimir Putin, flexing his muscles and his I Heart Crimea tattoo there. So putting a little sand in Obama's face. I've also been exploring the different media coverage of the crisis. And it's very interesting to see how the Western media reports on it and the Russian media reports on it. And here, this is an article in The Guardian, so a British paper, by a Russian journalist, Dmitry Kiselev. He is the boss of Russia Today, and he's often been called Putin's chief propagandist. Now, it's important to note that he's being targeted by EU sanctions. And in this article, he says that because of these sanctions, it shows that the West, rather than the East, is putting freedom of speech under threat. To quote the article, Russian journalists are free to tackle difficult issues in their reporting without fear of government sanctions. And so this has led him to say that the East and the West appear to be trading places.
Yeah, well, a very interesting opinion there. Let's move on. Let's talk about elections in India, the world's largest elections taking place now for the next 5 weeks.
That's right, and the turnout so far has been very high. Let's take a look at the front page of The Hindu that's talking about the high turnout in the third phase. There are a total of 9 phases over 6 weeks.
All right, well, a lot of the papers, though, they are focusing on one controversial politician there, if you will.
That's right, the Hindu nationalist politician Narendra Modi. Now, he is currently leading opinion surveys. He could very well be the next prime minister. This article in The Guardian points out that a dozen of India's most well-respected artists and academics have written a letter to The Guardian expressing their acute worry of Modi winning. Now, among them are the novelist Salman Rushdie, the sculptor Amish Kapoor, and they say that he embodies a callous and dangerous ideology that they believe oppose the values that founded India. Now, speaking about Modi, there's an interesting little tidbit that I picked up in the press today, and that's the fact that he has been touting his bachelorhood throughout the campaign. He says that because he's a bachelor, this is a sign that he'll be corruption-free because he has no family to support. But check out this article in the International New York Times. It turns out that he was married. He had a very short-lived marriage 45 years ago that he abandoned just after the wedding. The International New York Times says this is an election surprise, and they wonder if it could affect the result.
All right, well, so let's move on to something a little different, but not necessarily new, because once again, the French work ethic is being called into question. This after an article from abroad.
That's right. Lots of different articles. Yeah. It started out in The Guardian, so very prestigious articles are talking about this. Let's look at how the French press is reacting to this. This is Rue 89. They're talking about, oh my God, email interdit. So what is this about? Well, basically, a bunch of articles abroad reported this week that the Employers Federation and unions signed a legally binding labor agreement with an obligation to disconnect after 6 p.m. So these papers were saying that French employees can't read their email after 6 p.m. Rue 89 points out that the truth is a little bit different. This deal is not a formal law. It doesn't specify an actual time where the employees need to cease exchanging work emails, and it doesn't concern everybody. So Rue 89 says, don't worry, French people will still work after 6 p.m. But talking about work, there's another funny article in this time in Aujourd'hui en France. It's talking about how work is actually bad for your health because it makes you fat. This is a very serious study that Le Parisien Aujourd'hui en France reports about today that reports that over 50% of people say that they've gained weight since they were hired. Basically, they're glued to their chairs, they don't get exercise, and they stress eat. So if you maybe working isn't so good for you.
As if we need another excuse not to come to work. Okay, that's not encouraging. Well, let's end, Flo, wrapping up with Rio de Janeiro and its crime problem. Well, it's been caught on tape.
That's right. This is an incredible story. You can read about it in Slate, where they have a link to a video that we can also see some footage of. This is Brazil's Globo TV. The journalists hit the street to report about crime in Rio, and this is incredible. You'll see the journalist is interviewing a woman on a street about crime, and this young mugger comes up and rips the woman's necklace right off her neck in front of the camera. So if you take a look at that link, you'll see the footage. Now, according to Slate, here it is. See him run off the street. He comes up right behind her, whoop, and then runs down the street. This couldn't be a better case in point for the journalist that was reporting about crime. Now, it's no secret that Rio has a crime problem, but with the World Cup just around the corner, there's a sense of urgency to get a handle on it.
That indeed, it's a little unfortunate there. All right, well, Florence Filmino with a look at the world's press. Thank you very much for that update. Well, Live from Paris continues now with all the latest sports action. Take a look.
High temperatures and a swirling wind made it a difficult first day at the 78th Masters in Augusta. That didn't stop the American Bill Haas from shooting a 3 under par 68. He takes a one-stroke lead after the first round. Haas hoping to emulate his uncle Bob Golby, who won the Masters in 1968. The men chasing him hardest are 2013 champion Adam Scott, 2012 champion Bubba Watson,